Kendra came home to a silence that felt staged, like the house was holding its breath. Malin stood by the couch, hands in his pockets, eyes avoiding hers. Behind him sat a neat suitcase, the kind that says someone planned to stay. Then Saad stepped out of the hallway like she belonged there, wearing a soft smile and a brave kind of confidence. "Hi," she said, like greeting family. Kendra's throat tightened as Malin finally spoke. "She needs a place for a while." Saad touched the wall lightly, admiring the home with her eyes. "I didn't come to cause trouble," she said sweetly. "I came because he loves me." And just like that she moved in, calling it love, while Kendra stood in her own living room feeling like a visitor. The first days were polite in the sharpest way. Kendra kept her voice calm, her face steady, and her questions swallowed. Saad moved around like she was learning the house's rhythm, but she didn't move like a guest. She moved like a replacement. Malin tried to act normal, cracking jokes, touching Kendra's shoulder like he still had access to her softness. But his laughter didn't reach his eyes. Whenever Kendra looked at him too long, he looked away like a man dodging a mirror. One morning Kendra found her kitchen reorganized. Cups shifted, spices relocated, even the towels folded differently. Saad smiled and said, "I hope you don't mind. I just like order." Kendra nodded slowly, realizing this wasn't just a woman moving in. It was a quiet takeover. Saad caught Kendra alone and tried to speak like they were allies. "You're a beautiful woman," she began, voice warm like honey. "I'm not your enemy. I'm just chosen." Kendra felt her own heartbeat in her ears. "Chosen by what?" she asked. "By betrayal." Saada's smile twitched, then returned stronger like makeup over a bruise. "I didn't force him," Saad said, lifting her chin. "He came to me. He said he was tired of being misunderstood." She leaned closer. "Maybe you stopped seeing him." Kendra stepped back, calm but shaking inside. She realized Saad wasn't here to share space. She was here to rewrite history, and she spoke like love was a trophy. At night, the walls carried whispers. Kendra lay awake hearing Malin and Saad laugh softly, like teenagers hiding a secret. The sound wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut. One evening Saad strutted into the living room in a silky robe, holding Malin's arm like an announcement. "Babe," she said, "you promised me a soft life. I didn't leave my peace to suffer." Malin chuckled, but his face looked tired. Kendra watched without speaking, noticing something strange. Saad wasn't grateful, she was demanding. She wasn't building love, she was collecting proof. And Malin, proud as he was, kept shrinking in small ways, like the price of his choices was finally arriving. Kendra noticed it first with the framed picture on the wall. It was gone. Then another. Then the small album she kept in the drawer moved. Not stolen, just shifted like someone rearranging her memories. She confronted Malin quietly. "Where are our photos?" she asked, voice low. Malin hesitated too long. "I just thought maybe it's better to reduce tension," he said, as if love was decoration you could pack away. That night, Kendra opened a cupboard and found her wedding keepsakes wrapped in a plastic bag, tucked behind cleaning supplies. Her hands trembled, not from anger, but from the shock of how easily her history could be hidden. When she turned, Saad stood in the doorway, calm and unbothered. "It's not personal," Saad said. "It's just time to move forward." Kendra stared at her and realized. Saad wasn't moving forward, she was erasing. Saad began to complain loudly about things she once praised. The house was too quiet. The meals were too simple. Malin's attention was not enough. The sweet voice started to carry sharp edges. One night Malin snapped. Can you stop acting like this is a hotel? Sada's eyes widened like she couldn't believe he dared. So now I'm a burden? She asked, voice rising. You begged me to come. Kendra sat in her room hearing it all, her chest heavy with a strange mix of pain and relief. She didn't enjoy their conflict, but she couldn't ignore the truth. The fantasy Malin sold to Saad couldn't survive real life. Later, Malin walked into Kendra's room like a man seeking shelter from his own storm. He didn't apologize. He only sighed and said, "She's emotional." Kendra looked at him and thought, no, she's honest about what she wants. You're the one pretending. Saad decided to host a small gathering. Nothing fancy, just a few friends. She spoke like she was the woman of the house, giving instructions, choosing music, deciding what should be served. Malin followed behind her like a shadow. Kendra stayed in her room until she heard a voice outside the door. A woman laughed and said, "So you're the one who stayed?" The words landed like a slap. Kendra stepped out, calm, and every eye turned toward her. Saad rushed over, smiling too hard. "Everyone, this is Kendra," she said, as if introducing a distant relative. "She's family." The pause after "she's" was louder than the music. Kendra looked around at strangers sitting in her space, eating from her plates, judging her with curious eyes. And in that moment, something in her hardened, not into bitterness but into clarity. That night, Kendra waited until the house was quiet. She walked into the living room and found Malin sitting alone, head in his hands. He looked up like a child caught doing wrong. "Why did you do this?" Kendra asked, not screaming, not crying, just asking. Malin swallowed. "I was tired," he said. "I wanted to feel wanted again." Kendra nodded slowly. "And what am I?" she asked. Malin's eyes softened, and for a second he looked like the man she married. "You're home," he whispered. Kendra's voice stayed steady. "Home isn't something you borrow and break," she said. "If I'm home, why did you bring another woman to live inside me?" Malin had no answer, only silence, the kind that admits guilt without words. Saad began to show her real hand. She watched Kendra like a rival, not a roommate. She started correcting Malin in front of Kendra, demanding he pick sides in small things. What to eat, what to watch, who he should listen to. One afternoon Kendra overheard Saad on the phone, voice low but proud. "I told you I moved in," she said. "I'm not leaving until I'm secured." The word secured sat heavy in the air. That evening, Saad confronted Malin with a sweet voice that carried threat. "I need my name on something," she said. "If you love me, prove it." Malin frowned. "You said you came for love," he replied. Saad laughed softly. "Love without proof is just words," she said. And Kendra, listening from the hallway, finally understood. Saad didn't love Malin, she loved winning. Kendra stopped shrinking. She began taking up space again, cooking when she wanted, speaking when she wanted, walking through her home like she owned her breath. Saad noticed and hated it. Malin, confused by Kendra's calm, began hovering around her more. He asked questions, offered help, tried to share memories. Kendra didn't fight him. She simply didn't melt anymore. One night Saad pulled Malin aside and whispered harshly, "She's still acting like your wife." Malin replied tiredly, "Because she is." The words hung between them like a warning. Sada's face changed. Sweetness replaced by cold anger. "Then why am I here?" she snapped. Malin looked at her, and for the first time, he didn't have an answer that sounded romantic. Kendra packed quietly, not in a rush, not in tears, but with steady hands. She folded her clothes like she was folding away a chapter. Malin found her suitcase by the door and froze. "What are you doing?" he asked, panic rising. Kendra zipped the bag slowly. I'm choosing myself, she said. You two keep calling this love, but love doesn't push a woman out of her own life. Saad stood behind Malin, arms crossed, expecting victory. So you're leaving? She asked, voice smug. Kendra looked at her calmly. No, she said. I'm returning myself to me. Malin stepped forward. Don't do this, he pleaded. Kendra's eyes didn't soften. You already did this, she replied. Then she walked out, and the door closed with a quiet finality that shook the whole house. Without Kendra's presence, the house felt different. Not freer, just emptier. Saad realized quickly that being the new love came with chores, bills, patience, and real life. Malin became moody, restless, harder to impress. The laughter thinned. The romance became responsibility. One night, Saad snapped. You promised me a soft life. Malin replied. I promised you love. Saad laughed bitterly, and in that laugh was the truth. She didn't come for love, she came for comfort. Weeks later, Malin saw Kendra unexpectedly. She looked lighter, not because she was happy, but because she was no longer carrying humiliation. He tried to speak, but she simply nodded and kept walking. And Malin finally understood. The mistress moved in and called it love, but the woman who left quietly showed what love truly was. Choosing peace when betrayal tries to make you beg.